Sally Nunes, a former migrant domestic worker, is home in Iloilo, Philippines. From 2018 to 2021, Sally worked for an Omani diplomat posted in Berlin. She says the diplomat overworked her and deducted from her salary. She may never recover the lost wages, a whopping 83,000 euros.
Driver ako, katulong ako, lahat-lahat, trabaho ko. Dumating din ako sa point nung nasa Germany ako na muntik na ako makulaps. Yung nakahawak lang kasi ako dun sa lamesa sa kusina na dumilim yung paningin ko na parang ano talaga siya. Parang tumagilid talaga yung kusina. Buti nakahawak ako. Kasi sa sobrang pagod sa trabaho. Every time na magrereklamo ako, sasabihin sa akin ng amo kong babae na this is your job. Kaganunin niya, malaki yung sinisweldo namin sa'yo.
Kasi 950 euro pala ang salary nun. Tapos, binibigyan niya sa akin 600. Binabalik ko sa kanya ang 350.
When Sally took a vacation in the Philippines in December 2021, she decided not to return. Berlin-based migrant assistance group Banying helped with Sally's case. The nonprofit calculated that the total deductions from Sally's salary reached around 83,000 euros. German police listened to her story. She says the police told her they couldn't move forward with the case because her employer had diplomatic immunity. It is a similar case with Hermio.
Ang hirap anak, hindi na tayo makaka-decide ng ganyan agad-agad ng back out. Kasi naka-contract na tayo.
This is what former domestic worker Hermio told her 4-year-old daughter before leaving for Germany in 2010. She was off to work for a Turkish diplomat based in Berlin. While she was still in Manila, Ellen and her employer agreed that her monthly salary would be $500 US. When she saw the contract, it indicated her salary was actually 750 euros or around $938, as mandated by the German Foreign Ministry's minimum wage for domestic workers of diplomats at the time. Her employer said that the $500 agreement was still valid. He said the costs for her benefits would be way over 750 euros anyway. Ellen took it. She needed the job.
Mabait sila nung una. Wala pa akong pera ng euro. Kaya binibigyan niya ako. Sabi niya, ito, pamasahe mo papunta ng church niyo.
Things changed after a few months. There was an entire month when she was not allowed to take a day off. She planned her escape, but the house was guarded.
Pag kasi meron ng escort yung bahay, may nag-iikot ng mga pulis. Kasi nga mataas yung ano niya eh. So, pag ini-imagine ko yung time na yun, parang pumipikit ako sa sobrang trauma talaga ako. Kasi pag nahuli ako, paano? Nung umalis ako, pinagpipicturean ko kasi baka kako sa akin na ninakaw ko. Kasi meron naman akong mga dating sa camera ko. O yung mga valuable things ang inano ko na mapicturean ko siya para in case sabihin nilang kinuha ko, meron akong proof. Dahil may mga time.
With the help of the Filipino community in Germany and Banying, Ellen attempted to get back the wages she was entitled to. A lawyer helped file a case with the Berlin Labor Court. But the case could not move forward due to her employer's diplomatic immunity. Sally and Ellen's cases of alleged wage theft by a diplomat are not isolated cases. Under the Vienna Convention, diplomats and employees of international organizations are given varying levels of diplomatic immunity, which protects them from civil and criminal suit. Diplomatic immunity allows them to avoid prosecution in cases of trafficking and exploitation of migrant domestic workers. An exclusive Rappler investigation shows that 160 incidents of trafficking and exploitation against workers employed or under the care of diplomats or international organizations were reported from 1988 to 2021. Rappler looked at open-source court documents, news reports, case files from NGOs, and interviews. The charges of exploitation ranged from threats and coercion to physical, psychological, and sexual abuse, as well as low wages or not being paid at all. Nearly all of the 208 domestic workers were women from developing countries. At least 13 cases were dismissed because of diplomatic immunity. 33 cases led to the awarding of a total of $11 million in unpaid wages and damages. But even when a case was won and compensation was awarded, it did not automatically mean victory for the worker. Court litigation and enforcing a judgment can take years, if enforced at all. Often, the diplomat is transferred to another country or goes home to his or her country. New York City is the seat of international relations and diplomatic affairs. In New York, there is the United Nations headquarters, embassies, and offices of various international organizations. New York is also where diplomats exploit and abuse their domestic workers and get away with it because of diplomatic immunity. Domestic worker Edith Mendoza worked for German diplomat Pitt Kohler and his wife Marike. She worked long hours for a pittance of $4 an hour. With the help of rights groups, Edith and another worker who worked under Kohler, Cheryl Pahagas, filed a case of trafficking for the purpose of labor exploitation against the Kohlers. They demanded the payment of an estimated $220,000 in lost and unpaid wages. Both cases were dismissed because of diplomatic immunity. However, U.S. court documents state, notably, nothing in the defendant's motion to dismiss based on diplomatic immunity challenges the factual allegations of the complaint.
Nung mga panahong natatraffic si Ate Edith na Pitt Kohler, siya po ay isang active diplomat. So, ibig sabihin, ito yung mga nagtatrabaho sa United Nations na nagsasabing sila ay mga human rights defender. Particularly for Pitt Kohler, ang pinopromote niya talaga ay karapatan ng mga kababaihan at ng mga bata. So imagine, nagsasalita siya tungkol sa promoting and defending the rights of children, right, and women. Meanwhile, there's a trafficked domestic worker living inside his home. So imagine na lang po natin yung hypocrisy, di ba, ni Pitt Kohler dito. Hindi pa sapat na tinraffic ng mga Kohlers itong si Cheryl Pahagas. Tinraffic niya pa si Ate Edith Mendoza, di ba, a few months or years later. Diba? Parang wala man lang remorse dun sa ginawa nila kay Cheryl. Inulit pa nila.
In response to the allegations against Pitt Kohler, the German Foreign Office in Berlin said in an April 2023 statement, "The Federal Foreign Office takes such information very seriously. The allegations have not been substantiated." The Rappler investigation shows that of the 160 diplomats and international organization employees implicated in trafficking, at least 13 received complaints from multiple employees, indicating a pattern of maltreatment. At least 29 diplomats are still holding positions in embassies or international organizations.
If they know they'll have impunity, they will continue doing it. And so when no one is held accountable by their employers, for example, when no one is made an example of by their employers or by the institutions where they work, then there's a permissiveness about this. The laws don't matter. The laws aren't real. They get away with it once, and once the domestic worker raises any objection, that domestic worker is deported, and they just bring in a new one. So we see these serial offenders all the time who are then promoted by their own government. The sending states for the diplomats are definitely complicit because they protect their diplomats, they help extricate their diplomats, they refuse to waive immunity for their diplomats, and then they make it almost impossible to actually collect on judgments.
On at least 3 different occasions, Kohler spoke about human rights as a representative of the German Federal Foreign Office from 2020 to 2021. Kohler owes Mendoza and Pahagas an estimated $220,000 in lost wages. None of the migrant domestic workers featured in this video have been able to collect from their employers the wages denied them.